Hello, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's Alexander Hilly123 here, and it's time for my Radiohead albums ranked worst to best. I've tried to do this a few times, but I've come to a conclusion with my rankings of bands videos. They go on for way too long, so I'm going to try and do this and keep it under 10 minutes. I'm going to force myself to be succinct. That ain't easy, but this is a new style of recording these videos. It's going to have to be done this way. But before we do begin, I want to tell you guys a few things. I got into Radiohead in 2007 when I was 17 years of age. They've made 9 albums altogether. The first was released in 1993. The band formulated in 1985 initially. They were called initially On a Sunday because they got together and made music on a Sunday. And the band's name now is named after a Talking Heads song, I do believe. Although I couldn't find that song on Spotify. I don't know if it's a B-side or whatnot, because I've actually got into Talking Heads in the last year or two. Quite like their music. But yeah, 9 albums altogether. The first album on my ranking is the debut, not King of Limbs, Pablo Honey, released in early 1993. Inspired by the bands of the time in America, especially the grunge bands, and probably bands like Pixies and Sonic Youth who were making music as early as the mid-late 80s, I do believe. Fuzzy guitars, a real rock-orientated sound, quite immature lyrics and themes. Some fantastic numbers here though, some fantastic vocals from Tom York, some great tracks such as You, Anyone Can Play Guitar, which despite its cheesiness I really enjoy. Creep, as everyone knows, the band themselves hate that song, but I actually, when you think about it, it's made them so much money. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because they don't like the media attention, but you make music to live off really at the end of the day. So it is what it is. There are a few tracks on here though, which quite simply I can't get into, but it's fun to listen to because the band are never going to make another album like this, and they've always tried to evolve the sound. And obviously with the next album, The Bends, it was obvious they would never return to this era and style of music. So next up, ladies and gentlemen, in at number 8 is The King of Limbs, released in early 2011. And I need to mention as well, guys, in the drop-down box there, you can find a link to my favourite song from each album, and when I start talking about each album as well. This video is going to be a heck of a lot shorter than my other albums ranked worst to best, because I'm waffling too much in regard to doing these videos. Number 8, King of Limbs, released early 2011. Now this album features a lot of sampling and looping instead of normal song structures and songwriting. So what that means is they use old pieces of music and loop it and manipulate it, put it backwards, put it forwards, speed it up, repeat it, do that with their own instrumentation, put it in the songs as well. I am not that keen on that style. I'm a rock man primarily, probably as you can tell by the poster behind me. And as such, although I can see people loving this style of music and A Moon-Shaped Pool and King of Limbs being some of their favourite Radiohead albums, because of these reasons as to why they're some of my least favourite albums. Now, I like everything the band have done, don't get me wrong, but even when King of Limbs came out in early 2011, I think the media reaction to it was a little bit lukewarm in regards to absolutely everything that Radiohead have ever released. There's some great tracks on here, such as Morning Mr. Magpie, and let me have a look here. I just need to see the track listing. Give Up the Ghost and Lotus Flower, but there's certain tracks here that I can't get into. I think lyrically it's probably the least interesting Radiohead album as well, apart from Pablo Honey, and I like it, but I don't love it. But what I will say is there were live versions that Tom York did before this album came out. The album then released, and I couldn't get into those songs because I wanted to hear them the way he did them live, and when I heard it with all the manipulation and the vocals, especially with a track like Separator, I couldn't appreciate it. Anyway, next up, ladies and gentlemen, it's probably the most controversial one on my list. I'm so sorry, but you need to understand that I'm 33 years of age, and I'm struggling to get into new music as I get older. I like this album. I think there's some great tracks, some of the band's best, but I don't think it's one of their best altogether. It's A Moon-Shaped Pool, and it's the one where I feel people will be hyperventilating and thinking, how has he put this at number 7? I've tried to get into this, ladies and gentlemen. I just can't. That being said, the album opens up with 2 of my favourite Radiohead songs, really, Burn the Witch and Daydreaming. Full Stop, Glass Eyes, beautiful melancholic number. True Love Waits, whichever version of the song, it's still an incredibly beautiful piece of music. But I prefer the original from the I Might Be Wrong recordings in early 2001. That acoustic guitar in the faster pace. I feel like this version, it's been neutered a little bit and I'm not keen on it. And songs like Tinker Tailor Soldier Sailor and Identikit, and I think it's Dex Dark, songs like that, they just don't do as much for me. And it says on Wikipedia here that, you know, the album is baroque pop and chamber, and yet again they've evolved the style from what the King of Limbs were, but I feel on this album that Tom York is kind of playing within himself or singing within himself. He's not singing very loudly. He's more restrained, and I think that's purposeful. The guy's probably not capable of singing some of those high notes the way that he used to be, quite simply. He's in his mid-50s now. It's understandable. I don't mean to be insulting here, of course not, but he can't sing the way that he could during the 90s, you know. He's not a young man anymore, and I think that style, the restrained, not so much laid back, but more quieter version of Tom's voice now is cool, but lyrically as well, there's some great lyrics here. Burn the Witch makes me laugh, to be honest with you. It's a very, very tongue-in-cheek, silly song. Daydreaming and Glass Eyes are some of the most beautiful lyrics ever put to tape for Radiohead, but I'm just not keen. And what I will say about this album is it's very long. It's nearly 53 minutes, and there's 5 tracks on this album over 5 minutes, and I just find myself looking at my watch thinking, this song's still going on? I do apologise, guys. I'm just not a huge fan of a moon-shaped pool. Tell me if I should listen to a particular track and keep trying to get into it. Also, I'm noticing here that Tom York credited as Dr. Talk. I have no idea. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, in at number 6 is an album which a lot of people would have as one of their least favourite Radiohead albums. I mean, it's not that high up on my list, but I adore this album. It's Hail to the Thief, released in June 2023. June 2003, I should say. Maybe it will come out next year again, Hail to the Thief 2. But yeah, this is sandwiched in between Kid A and Amnesiac and In Rainbows, and it seems the band doing a little bit of everything, and that's why it's a bit hodgepodge. That's why it's a bit all over the place. It's anxious, it's fast, it's heavy, it's rocky, it's still experimental, it's weird, it's lyrically thought-provoking. There's quite a bit of politics here as well, a bit dystopian perhaps. The album cover showcases what it's all about with key words that are said in the media and the modern day, for example. I still think this album is incredible. I can understand why people don't like it, but I actually really like it because of the fact that there's influences from all over their discography while still picking up new influences from artists around them and old school shit as well. You know, you've got tracks like 2 + 2 = 5, which is a reference to 1984, but then you've got a song like Sail to the Moon and A Punch Up at a Wedding. You know, A Punch Up at a Wedding, so bizarre, so silly. I love that song, but a lot of people hate it. We Suck Young Blood, that sounds like doomy and very dark. And then you've got something like Go to Sleep, which is dark but also quite pretty within its lyrics and its music. It's just a fascinating album. I love Hail to the Thief. I totally at the same time understand why people don't like it. I've got to give some mad props on this album though to Colin Greenwood and Phil Selway on the drums and the bass. Where I End and You Begin and There are 2 of the best songs ever made, and they are dancey but also melancholic at the same time. Like, how do you even manage that? But yeah, Where I End and You Begin is a song I'm putting in the drop down box, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely goosebump inducing track. And I love Hail to the Thief. There isn't a song on this album, despite it not being concise, despite it not being consistent, I like all the songs on this album. In at number 5 is Amnesiac, ladies and gentlemen, released 2 years before Hail to the Thief in 2001. Some people prefer this to Kid A. I'm not going to say that they're wrong. This album is phenomenal and I adore it. And yet again here, you know, you've got quite an interesting balance of songs which are more immediate and not that experimental and are more kind of just like chorus verse chorus, and then you've got tracks which are just very, very weird and out there and a bit left of field. If you're, for example, if you're in the 90s, you only listen to rock music and you love Radiohead and you listen to this, a song like Packed Like Sardines in a Crushed Tin Box or Pull Revolving Doors, I can understand why you wouldn't like it so much. You've got a different version of Morning Bell, the Amnesiac version. I do prefer the original, but I find it really cool that they did a different version of it. My favourite song on the album is I Might Be Wrong, Mr. Colin Greenwood yet again, ladies and gentlemen. That bass is unbelievable. And then you've got that part near the end where it just all breaks down. Great beat. Such a great groove. Dancey as hell. And I'm totally not agreeing with... I remember when the Gallagher brothers said, you know, Radiohead haven't put out anything with melody or something like that after OK Computer and stuff. And it's like, no, you two are knuckle-dragging northern Neanderthals. Hey, we've got something in common. But no, they truly are, because this album's got a lot of beauty, a lot of melody. You and Whose Army, Knives Out is quite dark and brooding. Life in a Glass House, which features a gentleman named Humphrey Littleton, a jazz trumpeter. It's got a kind of big band feel, a classical feel, and I absolutely love it. And of course, Pyramid Song. Quite a few songs in Radiohead's discography, regardless of whether it's purposeful or not. You look at the lyrics and you just can't help but think this is someone committing suicide. But it sounds so warm and so beautiful at the same time. Lyrically amazing. Pyramid Song is one of the best songs ever made. And yeah, I adore every song on this album. Dollars and Cents might feel a little bit out of place. Feels like it could well be on Hail to the Thief, at least in terms of its themes lyrically. Like Spinning Plates, that song is backwards, ladies and gentlemen. And I think the main lyric is, while you make pretty speeches, I'm being torn or cut to shreds or something like that. And yet, it's just so good. How they can make music sound so good from such simple lyrics sometimes. There's genius in simplicity. That's one of my favourite sayings, ladies and gentlemen. It's one of my own. And, you know, Radiohead, I'm not just saying all the music is simple, but they have made a lot of simple ideas and made genius out of it. It's incredible. Amnesiac in at number 5. In at number 4, ladies and gentlemen, you can see them a rock man primarily. I do believe that Radiohead as a band aren't that into rock music anymore. They become bored by it a long time ago. But I feel that way by the kind of music that they're making now, with the looping and the samples, and how much can you do with that? How much can you do with music altogether, I guess, especially when you see how shit modern music is in this day and age. But The Bends is just a great rock album. It is what it is, and I get the feeling that anybody who is more into the looping and the sampling of King of Limbs and electronic music and experimental shit, stuff like that, might not like The Bends as much. But I just think this is a fantastic rock album with more easy to listen to tracks such as High and Dry, The Beautiful Fake Plastic Trees, and Street Spirit Fade Out with that finger picking style. That just sounds like the end of the world is coming, ladies and gentlemen. It's so dark. But songs like Sulk and Bones and Nice Dream, some of the songs that people don't speak of with this album, I still love them all. Especially Nice Dream, which I feel has an incredibly emotional and nostalgic feel to it, I would indeed say. There's a little bit of what was on Pablo Honey here, but it's a lot more mature within its themes. Musically, it's better. And Tom York's vocals, did they ever sound better than this album? I'm not entirely sure they did, ladies and gentlemen. On a song such as My Iron Lung, and that's what I can say about this band, you know, getting into them when I was 17 in 2007. I was a big fan of Coldplay and Muse, and those two bands, well, they've gone on to sell out and make a heck of a lot worse music, but they're never as good as Radiohead, of course. But I got into Radiohead because of those kind of bands, and then from Radiohead I was like, oh, who's Aphex Twin? I'll listen to that. Who's Boards of Canada? Who's Autechre? Who's Philip Glass? Who's this old, you know, who's Scott Walker, for example? This kind of shit. But then, because of Johnny Greenwood and a track like My Iron Lung, I wanted to listen to heavier shit as well. And sometimes I kind of wish that Radiohead had continued with the Bends style, although ultimately it's probably best that they didn't. But I just wish that there was another album like The Bends, you know. It is an incredible rock album. There's a lot of rock music that I love, but yeah, The Bends is just so damn good. And it's a fantastic album. Running in altogether, ladies and gentlemen. This was released in 95, by the way. 48 minutes in length, so there was only 2 years between Pablo Honey and The Bends. That's kind of mind-blowing to me, because it feels like there should be a bigger gap of time. But yeah, I've put Street Spirit as my favourite song on this album. It's just goosebump inducing. Absolutely amazing. And Just as well. So damn good. But anyway, I know you spoke about Black Star, ladies and gentlemen. R.I.P. David Bowie. But at number 3, it is the absolutely gorgeous In Rainbows. And you know, this came out the year that I was into Radiohead. I remember downloading this for free off the website because they said pick your price. I was a 17-year-old college student, so I thought my price was £0 ladies and gentlemen. I did pay the band back subsequently years later by buying albums and a few bits and bobs of merch and stuff. But yeah, that was a cool, unique thing at the time. I think Trent Reznor did it as well with Year Zero for Nine Inch Nails. But yeah, this album, it just sounds comfy. And as you can see with my hood up, it's kind of cold right now. I'm just making this on this Friday afternoon. I've got a week off work and I'm just chilling. Just thought I'd make this video because I wanted to. But this time of year, autumn, winter, In Rainbows is going to warm you up, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to warm you up. So get a nice cup of a hot drink of your kind and just chill out. I absolutely adore this album. 15 Step and Body Snatchers starting the album off. Body Snatchers, the biggest rock song on here, to be honest with you. Absolutely beautiful though. Songs like Weird Fishes and the awe-inspiring Reckoner and the very chill and lyrically simple and kind of silly House of Cards. Silly lyrically. It sounds like a bloody swingers party when you listen to that song, the lyrics. But it is gorgeous. And then Tom had to end it on a dour note, Videotape. It's beautiful, but it's very dark. And it's yet another song where we've got some kind of suicide themes going on there. And let's just see what it said about the album here. The recording incorporates elements of art rock, experimental rock, art pop and electronica. A hand clap rhythm inspired by Fuck the Pain Away by Peaches. I've heard of that song before and I do not like it, and I'm surprised by the inspiration for 15 Step. But you hear this this kind of choir of kids going, yay! And it's so weird. How does it work? I don't know, but it does. Nude was an old song which Radiohead had been performing since the 90s, but it's gorgeous. And I think it was called Big Ideas initially in the 90s, but the end, don't get any big ideas, they're not going to happen, you'll go to hell for what your dirty mind is thinking. But that outro is one of the best moments in Radiohead history. And I have to say as well, Radiohead, great B-sides across the discography. For me personally, In Rainbows, best B-sides in their era. Down is the New Up, Go Slowly, Melancholy. Last Flowers, possibly the most beautiful song ever made. You've got to listen to it right now. Up on the Ladder, down, down, down. Great guitar playing, bangers and mash is heavy as fuck. It's basically what would have been on the album if Body Snatchers wasn't on. And then 4 Minute Warning, which is basically like, we've got 4 minutes until the world ends and we're just chilling out playing some beautiful music. It's crazy. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to keep moving on. In at number 2, it is indeed Kid A. This list is quite formulaic, isn't it? If we're being perfectly honest. Not too many left of field decisions here. But I got into Radiohead in 2007 when I was 17. But I'm not going to lie, Amnesiac and Kid A took me a few more years to listen to and enjoy. I listened to them, didn't understand them, increased my musical palette, and then about 2009, 10, I was about 19 or 20, came back and fell in love with the album. And it helped with songs such as the National Anthem and How to Disappear Completely and Morning Bell and Motion Picture Soundtrack. More typical chorus, verse, chorus, sounding a little bit more familiar to me as opposed to a track like Kid A or something completely ambient like Tree Fingers, which I think is a phenomenal ambient track yet again, and why I would love for them to dabble in a bit more ambient. Beautiful. In Limbo sounds like you're lost at sea, you're bobbing up and down. It's quite uneasy, I bloody love it. Idiotech is very dystopian, take the money and run, the mobiles are chirping, and it's dancey at the same time, phenomenal. Motion picture soundtrack, more suicide going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Is this the darkest song in the Radiohead discography? Possibly. Let's just have a look at some of those lyrics, because it's just bloody amazing there. Red wine and sleeping pills, help me get back to your arms. Cheap sex and sad films, help me get back where I belong. Stop sending letters, letters always get burnt. It's not like the movies, they fed us on little white lies. Oh my days, I think you're crazy, maybe. The lyric is repeated. I will see you in the next life. And how Tom sings that as well is just incredible. How you can't get goosebumps at that, I don't quite understand. My favourite track on this, I put it as Optimistic. I've put it as Optimistic. I absolutely love that song. And yet again, maybe it's because I've just listened to a lot of different music in the last 10 to 12 years, but I don't mean this in a rude way. It's experimental somewhat, this album, but people act as if it's the weirdest music ever made and stuff. There's weird music out there, guys, trust me. But yeah, what has amazed me recording this video and looking at Radiohead's discography is, and this is definitely a compliment, please take it as one, because I know the guys are watching this video, of course. Some of Tom's lyrics are incredibly simple, and you don't necessarily realise it until you see them written out in front of you. Yet, the way that he sings, the way that the band all come together as one, the way the songs sound, they just make them work. And yeah, the best you can is good enough. Dinosaurs roaming the earth. I've noticed that Tom likes to sing about dinosaurs. I don't know why. They're pretty cool. Everything in its right place. Waking up sucking a lemon. Very bizarre. The national anthem. All those like strings and that kind of classical feel. But it sounds kind of like it's all breaking down at the same time. And that repeated bass loop as well. Or whatever it is. Oh my days. That is disgusting. So cool, man. But ladies and gentlemen, in at number one, you're going to be amazed to find out that it's the album called OK Computer, released in 1997. And I do apologise, it's why I've made this video a little bit shorter than my other albums ranked worst to best, because what hasn't been said about this band, what hasn't been said about this discography, and what hasn't been said about this incredible album. Got to say as well, amazing B-sides. I've got OK Computer on vinyl. I've got about 30 vinyls, and I'm still trying to get a different vinyl from one artist. So, for example, there's not one artist that I've got two vinyls of. So, naturally, I wanted to get my favourite Radiohead album, which is OK Computer. I think if I got another vinyl from Radiohead, I'd really like In Rainbows, to be honest with you, because it's just got that cosy feel listening to vinyl in autumn and winter and whatnot. But OK Computer isn't exactly cosy, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, needless to say, with its title, and as everybody knows, lyrically, this is about technology ruling over our lives, and it's so cliche to say and so obvious, but, oh, they saw it coming. Well, maybe they did, but I'm sure they weren't the only ones at that time. You know, I was 7 years of age when OK Computer released. I don't know what the world was like, but we were moving into 3D video games. We were moving into a time when mobile phones were ready available for the common man. Internet was coming into people's houses, and how could all that technology plus many, 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 many other forms of technology that was becoming readily available not change people's lives? And quite simply, does it change people's lives for the better or for the worse? The fact of the matter is, both. But I think even more so now as this album ages. Yes, I know it's cliche and cheesy perhaps to say, but I don't care, it's true. This album lyrically makes more sense as time goes on, and sometimes I find myself pining for a time when it was not the modern day, quite simply, and I do wonder what it had been like if I could have been born when my parents were born in the kind of 50s. So album opens up with Airbag, Paranoid Android, Subterranean Homesick Alien, Exit Music for a Film, Let Down Camera Police, Fitty Happier, the controversial one, Electioneering, Climbing Up the Walls, No Surprises, Lucky, and The Tourist. So this album is still very much a rock album, guitars on every track really, bass, drums, a conventional rock band making music, but more electronics are being introduced into the mix. It's still got a chorus, verse, chorus, like a feel. I think all the band are performing to the maximum here. There's some absolutely incredible lyrics. I love the dystopian feel and the themes of technology and all that kind of shit. And yet there's still a longing here, such as on a track like Let Down, which for me personally, I think, yeah, I've put it as my favourite track of the album. I think the second half of that song, for me personally, I've listened to a lot of music. I've got Spotify here. I've got my iPod Classics. I've got my iPod Classic with over 100 gigabytes of music. I'm going to go on record as saying the second half of that song, and I'm just going to check the lyrics here, is possibly the most astonishing piece of music I've ever heard. I cannot get around. I can't get my head around how beautiful it is. It's absolutely incredible, and it's the overlaying of all the different vocals with those little electronic bleeps and blobs in the background. The way that Tom delivers the vocals, incredible. You know which part I'm talking about. Shell smashed, juices flowing, wings twitch, legs are going. Don't get sentimental, it always ends up drivel. One day I'm gonna grow wings, a chemical reaction, hysterical and useless. Let down, hanging around, crushed like a bug in the ground. Let down, hanging around. You know, I read these lyrics here right now, and is it all that much? Is it all that good? But yeah, it is. Bouncing back, one day I'm going to grow wings. I think it's kind of trying to break out from this world that the band have created into something better. That's what it is, and that's why it's so awe-inspiring and goosebump inducing and just overall absolutely beautiful. Exit music for a film. I believe this had something to do with Romeo and Juliet, or it was wrote for Romeo and Juliet. I think the year before this album came out was the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio in. Paranoid Android. It's the 90s version of Bohemian Rhapsody, only much darker, of course. Airbag, Karma Police, we all know about that. Electioneering, a hard rock song. There had to be one on this album, and that is indeed Electioneering, with a political edge as well. Absolutely hilarious lyrics with this one. Climbing Up the Walls, about mental illness and insanity. Even a scream at the end from Tom as well, and it works so damn well. So eerie. And then, it's no surprises, ladies and gentlemen. I've got to talk about that good old thing of suicide again. Someone trying the old carbon monoxide in the car here. And that childlike, melancholic, absolutely beautiful bleep and blop of the whatever instrument is used in No Surprises. I don't actually know. Maybe I should. Let's have a... Oh, and the video as well. Jesus Christ. A glockenspiel, ladies and gentlemen. He said he wanted Radiohead to create the atmosphere of a song by Marvin Gaye or Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. Yeah, I kind of understand that. I kind of get that, yeah. What a Wonderful World by... I mean, it's still depressing as hell, but what a song. I remember watching, I think in the mid-2000s, when I was about 15, Channel 4 did, I think it was the best albums of all time or something, and this came number one. And I remember seeing York with his head in the bloody fishbowl and thinking, what the hell is this about? But, ladies and gentlemen, then Lucky, and then the last song on the album, The Tourist. And you want to know about closers? These guys know how to close an album. Street Spirit, Motion Picture Soundtrack, Life in a Glass House, Videotape. But for me, The Tourist is the best of the bunch. With that little microwave ping at the end of the song. Ping! Hey man, slow down. Idiot, slow down. They ask me where I'm going, 1,000 feet per second. Kind of getting a feeling of I'm Only Sleeping Here by the Beatles lyrically. That's one of my favourite Beatles songs where John Lennon's just smoking some mad blunts. You know what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. And I get that from this song. Hey man, slow down. It's about people obviously just going through life a million miles an hour, the daily grind, etc, etc. The lyrics and themes of this very album. OK Computer's a masterpiece. It always will be. Perhaps some people will say it's overrated. It's not their favourite in the discography. Absolutely understand, that's fine, but you can't tell me it's not an amazing album. And then the B-sides as well. Pearly, that's a really fun song. Meeting in the Aisle, a great instrumental. No offence to Tom York, but I would have liked more songs without his vocals on, because they're such great artists and musicians. I'd like to hear more instrumental tracks. I want to see more B-sides just before I go here, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, here we go. Lull. Oh my god, what a beautiful, fun song that is. I'm in a lull. Palo Alto as well. How I Made My Millions. Tom's, well no, unfortunately, ex-wife in the background cutting vegetables up. That's the chopping that you can hear in that track if you don't know. Palo Alto, a reminder. Yeah, man, what can I say? Great B-sides. Radiohead, what a band. Like I said, I don't listen to them that much any longer, but it doesn't mean that I don't absolutely adore their music. I do. It's just that certain bands I don't find myself going back to and listening I listen to music shuffling these days, and you know, this week I've had a week off work, and I've been listening to a band called Vola. They're like a degent progressive rock band from Denmark. I thought about getting into some Kate Bush, because everyone's about the bush these days. Oh my lord. And some Peter Gabriel as well. I know Radiohead aren't that big on progressive rock. Progressive rock's a real love-hate genre for me. I love King Crimson, Pink Floyd, Porcupine Tree, certain bands, some more modern progressive rock bands, but then it's really cheesy. If you guys want to go onto my channel, have a look at some of my favourite music on my channel, you'll see me there. If you want to know what I listen to, it's a shame because I sometimes want to make a new Last FM and live the old days, but times have moved on, and Last FM got ruined by, I think it was a big American company took them over, and they didn't have the interests of the users at heart. But it's just a shame because I'm still interested in getting into new music and talking about music, but my brain won't let me. The last band that I fell in love with was probably Cigarettes After Sex, back about 5 years ago, and then their second album, no one liked it, and yeah. You've got recommendations for me, guys, drop them in the drop down box. And yeah, that's Radiohead, worst to best. Now, coming up next, it's going to be Mr. Elliott Smith. We're nearly at the 20th anniversary of his death, and he died at 34. I'm 33, so I'm nearly the age he was. What an absolute legend, a troubled man. But my God, was he a genius, and I cannot wait to start talking about that guy's music. And that'll be the next video, and then Red House Painters with the much maligned, controversial Mark Kozelek, and the absolute beast of a man that is Trent Reznor, making this heterosexual man wondering if he is heterosexual indeed, entirely, because Trent Reznor is a legend. Anyway, thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.